Good evening. Mazel tov. Wow. They tell a story about a minister, a priest, and a rabbi who got together. And they decided to pose a challenge. And the challenge was to see if they can go out and convert a beer to their respective religions. And they decided they would meet up a week later to see how things went. Well, sure enough, a week later they meet up. And the minister walks in with a black and blue eye, bruised, scratched up. And they turn to the minister and they say, "What happened? Did you manage to convert a beer?" And he said, "Yes." He says, "I went with my holy water. I found a beer in the forest. Bear? That's the way we say it in Brooklyn. And I caught the beer and I started sprinkling my holy water on the beer, and the beer socked me in the eye, and then we started wrestling. He scratched me up. But finally I managed to sprinkle the holy water on him and converted him." Then they look at the priest. The priest has his hand in a sling. His foot is in a cast. He's on crutches. And they ask the priest, "How did you make out? Did you manage to convert a beer?" And he says, "Yes." He says, "But I didn't want to just sprinkle some holy water on him. I wanted to do a real baptism. So I grabbed a hold of the beer and I started dragging him down to the water to baptize him in the lake. And we wrestled here and there, and finally we rolled down the hill, but he hit me here and knocked me there, and finally I pushed him in the water, dunked the beer under the water, kicked me again, and I managed to baptize the beer. But here I am with a broken arm and a broken leg." And then they look at the rabbi. The rabbi was rolled in a wheelchair with a body cast from his neck down to his legs. And they look at the rabbi and they say, "Rabbi, how did you make out?" He says, "Yeah, I found the beer and I managed to convert him to Judaism." They say, "Really? But what happened to you?" He said, "Well, to tell you the truth, looking back in hindsight, maybe it wasn't the best idea to start with circumcision." When I think about Palm Beach Synagogue, I think about a place where Judaism is not painful, where Judaism is joyous, where people are excited to come to shul. You know, for 30 years I've been giving sermons at the Palm Beach Synagogue, thousands of sermons over all the Shabbatot and the holidays. But there's one common thread through every sermon I've ever given at Palm Beach Synagogue. And that is, if you've been to shul, you know, I always start with a joke. And people ask me, "Why do you start every sermon with a joke?" And to me, the answer is that there's no more beautiful sound in a synagogue than the sound of joy and laughter. I want people to associate the synagogue with a place that is joyous, a Judaism that they love, that they embrace, that they're eager, that they look forward to Shabbat, to pray, to study Torah together, to be with their community. That's the type of Judaism we wanted, and thank God I've been able to create here in Palm Beach. And when I think about Palm Beach Synagogue, PBS, to me, the P of Palm Beach Synagogue stands for passion. There's a passion in our community. There's an excitement, there's an enthusiasm, there's a love, there's a joy. Someone asked me the other week, "Rabbi, after 30 years, are you still inspired to be a rabbi?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "What's the secret?" And I said, "It's my wife, Deanie." When I see Dini's joy, her love, her passion for everyone and everything in our community, that inspires me every day. And from Dini to all our rabbis, to all our rebbitzins, to all our staff, and to every member of our community, this is a community that is passionate and loves their Judaism. And for this, I'm grateful and thankful to Hashem and proud tonight after 30 years of what we've accomplished together. Just 2 days ago in the synagogue and synagogues around the world, we read the Torah portion of Terumah, which is the commandment to build a sanctuary, a dwelling place, a tabernacle for God. And the Torah says that contributions should be given from all those, kol nediv libo, everyone whose heart is generous and motivated and inspired to give from the heart. And when I think about the B of Palm Beach Synagogue, I think about what our synagogue stands for, which is benevolence, generosity. And I don't mean just financial generosity. I mean generosity of spirit, kindness to one another, caring for everyone in the community. Generosity with people's time, giving of themselves for the betterment of our community and for the Jewish people and for the land of Israel. Tonight I look out at this room and you know that this gala was supposed to take place at the Flagler Museum because our greatest hope was that 350 people will show up at the Flagler. But when the reservations started pouring in, we had to switch our venue to the Kravis. And tonight, 600 members of our community have shown up to support the Palm Beach Synagogue. That is the benevolence, the generosity, and the kindness of our community. And it's not just tonight at the gala that I witness it. Dini and I are blessed every day of the year for the past 30 years to see day in, day out, the kindness, the generosity, and the benevolence of every member of this community. And what a blessing that has been. And I want to say that benevolence began tonight with our terrific honorees. And I want to thank Paul and Karen Levy, and of course, David and Simone Levinson, and our chairs, Ronnie Heyman and Terry Castle, who led the way and showed everyone what it means to love and give to your beloved Jewish community. And so if the P of Palm Beach Synagogue stands for passion, the B stands for benevolence. When we read the Torah portion about the building of the Mishkan, our rabbis say that where did the Jewish people get the wood, the acacia wood, the cedar wood to build the walls of the tabernacle? And our rabbis in the Midrash tell us something fascinating. They say when Jacob came to Egypt 200 years earlier to join his son Joseph, he brought saplings of cedar wood to Egypt. And he planted those saplings in the land of Egypt. And when the time of the redemption of the Jewish people came, the Jewish people cut down those cedar trees and took it with them into the desert. And when God commanded them to build a Mishkan, a tabernacle, they used the trees that Jacob, their forefather, planted to build the walls of the tabernacle. And our rabbis ask, why did Jacob have to schlep cedar wood saplings to Egypt? Couldn't the Jews just purchase wood from traveling merchants or from neighboring communities? And our rabbis say that the Jewish people wanted the spirit of their forefather Jacob, the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, to reside with them in the tabernacle. And therefore they wanted to use the wood, the saplings of the trees that Jacob brought to Egypt to honor his memory and to bring it into their community by building the walls of the tabernacle with that wood that their forefather brought to Egypt. And here rabbis tell us that when we build a community, we can never forget on whose shoulders we stand, on who came before us, who enabled us to be here today. Tonight we celebrate 30 years, but it feels like yesterday that Dini and I crossed over the bridge after getting a call to help a two handful of people start a minyan in Temple Emmanuel. And we came to Palm Beach in March of 1994. It was just Dini and I. We were newly married, 1 year married. We had no children at the time. And we thought we were just coming for one Shabbos to help out a little bit, read the Torah. And when we came into the synagogue, we found a group of individuals who just 2 months earlier, January of 1994, decided to form a community. And I want to remember some special individuals who are not here with us tonight because they are in heaven. But surely their souls are joining us tonight as they look out in this room and they see how those seeds of those saplings that they planted in Palm Beach 30 years ago have grown and flourished. And of course, beginning with what Ronnie Heyman mentioned, her beloved parents, who she dedicated the synagogue in their memory, Dr. Sidney and Charlotte Feuerstein. When Dini and I moved to Palm Beach, I'll never forget, we moved into an apartment at the Palm Beach Towers. We had boxes and boxes from our Miami apartment. And we looked around at each other and we said to ourselves out loud, do you think we did the right thing? And suddenly there was a knock on the door. And I opened the door and Dr. Sidney Feuerstein is standing there with a dozen roses. And he says, my wife Charlotte said, you just moved into this building. Welcome to our community. When we closed the door in tears, we looked at each other and we said, we made the right move. We came to the right community. I remember Joel and Maria Finkel, Sam and Lily Bornstein, Dorothy and Arnold Neustatter, Jack and Reepa Alpert, Michael Gelfand, whose wife Edith is with us tonight, Walter Arts, Usher Barzev. These were the first Jews we met here in Palm Beach. And so to me, the letter S stands for spirit, the Ruach. Everyone in this room had parents and grandparents that instilled in them a feeling for Yiddishkeit, a love, a spirit of being a Jew. And tonight we honor all of their memories as we carry on their legacies of our Bubbies and our Zaydis who lived for their Yiddishkeit. And from heaven are all joining us and saying, we're proud of what you've accomplished. That in a place like Palm Beach, you were able to build a vibrant and a proud Jewish community. You know, when Dini and I arrived here 30 years ago, people told us Palm Beach is not a place receptive for Jews. Palm Beach had a history of anti-Semitism, restricted clubs, restricted parks, restricted hotels. And here we are 30 years later, and it's ironic that Palm Beach feels like one of the safest places for Jews, considering other cities around the world. And while our IDF soldiers are in the front lines defending Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, we are in the front lines fighting a war of hatred, of anti-Semitism, of Jew hatred here in America, on the streets of every city, on social media and on campuses. And people ask, how do you fight anti-Semitism? And I want to tell you what I believe. You can't get people who hate you to love you. No matter how much you try to convince them, haters will be haters. To me, the best way to fight anti-Semitism is to strengthen the Jewish people. To love ourselves as Jews and to love our fellow Jews more than ever. Because the only thing that will help us overcome the hate is by loving our Judaism more. If we make ourselves stronger, if we strengthen our body, we will have the immune system to fight off all the anti-Semites. By you being here tonight and being a part of the Palm Beach Synagogue, you are using the most effective tool to fight anti-Semitism, and that is to build stronger, brighter, and prouder Jewish communities. I want to just conclude by telling you what happened this past Yom Kippur in our synagogue, which to me highlights what Palm Beach Synagogue is all about. It was Yom Kippur morning this year. Synagogue was filled to capacity. The doors were open, overflowing. There wasn't an inch of space. And we took out the Torah. And you know, in most synagogues on Yom Kippur, who do they call to the Torah? The most prestigious members of the community, the biggest supporters, the people who do the most for the synagogue. But we decided to dedicate one of our liot to a very special teenager in our community. You see, our synagogue prides itself on being inclusive. Not only are we inclusive to every single Jew, we don't believe in labels at Palm Beach Synagogue. Labels are for clothing. There's no such a thing as a Reformed, Conservative, or Orthodox Jew. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. And we welcome every single Jew and love every Jew equally. But we run a very special program that Simone is a big part of, called Project Connect, for the Jewish children in our community who have special needs, who are not able to participate in regular activities. And so we chose one of the teenagers of our special needs program, our Project Connect program, which is run by Rabbi Label. And we honored this young man. His name is Ethan Vidal. And we called him up for an honor on the holiest day of the year. And those who are in shul will remember this moment. Ethan was shocked that we chose him for an honor. And he came up and put on his talit. And usually when you get to the Torah, you go to the Torah to make a blessing. He stood up and started waving to the whole congregation. He was so proud. And then with the biggest smile and the biggest grin, he turned to the Torah. And with the most heartfelt kavanah, feeling, he belted out the most beautiful blessing, Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach, and everyone responded. And after his aliyah, when he concluded his blessing, spontaneously, the entire congregation on Yom Kippur broke out in the most thunderous applause. And it was that moment I was so proud. I said, this is what the heart of Palm Beach Synagogue is. To give every child a feeling of connection to their heritage. That no Jewish child should be left behind. And I want to tell you, every time I see Ethan, you know what he says to me? Rabbi Scheiner, did I do good? I did well on my blessing? And I say, Ethan, you were amazing. And the joy of that moment lives inside of him every single day. And that's what Palm Beach Synagogue is here to do. As our parents and our grandparents gave us a love for Judaism, a pride in being Jewish, we are here to make sure that every Jewish child receives that love and that passion and that spirit and that benevolence that Palm Beach Synagogue instills in every single child. Mazel tov, and thank you for joining us tonight.